we're all on our own path, and at least they have some Jesus in their life, right? And we just want to be able to connect. We don't have to totally agree with everything that they believe in or say or do, but we can be able to like connect because maybe we have one thing in common because we're all children of God, and so we can all be able to still all be friends because of the religion that we practice, and it's important that we respect everybody. Hi, welcome back to Christlike Youth, a podcast for youth by youth. This week we're talking about Doctrine and Covenants, sections 133 through 134. It talks about prepare ye for the coming of the bridegroom. Okay, so these sections talk about being warned to move away from Babylon, which is the scriptural opposite of Zion, and move towards Zion. How are we responding to this call to move away from Babylon as youth?
I was reading in Come Follow Me, and it kind of stuck out to me, this one part that answers your question. And it says, flee worldliness as symbolized by Babylon, build Zion, prepare for the second coming, and spread this message unto every nation and kindred and tongue and people. But pretty much just breaking that down a little bit, it's just that we need to start moving away from Babylon. Babylon is the worldly things in today's world, things that are not keeping us closer to Christ. And that's why we need to start moving towards Zion and gathering Zion, because when we are doing that, we are strengthening our relationship with Christ and helping others strengthen their relationship in Christ also. So it's important for us to remember that we need to start strengthening our relationship with Christ now. We already should be, but we need to really start going to church and reading our scriptures and praying and all of the things and moving away from all those worldly things that are hurting us, from keeping us from building our testimony even stronger. But yeah.
I think something that we were talking about, moving away from Babylon and moving towards Zion. And an example, in these verses, it says, prepare for the coming of the bridegroom. And that's a story that I really like. So for those of you who don't know it, basically it's there's these 10 virgins and they all have lamps with oil in them. And they're waiting to be led into a wedding, and they're waiting on the bridegroom. And they have, there's 5 wise women and 5 foolish women. And so they have the 5 foolish ones, they didn't bring any extra oil. And so they're waiting a lot longer than expected for the bridegroom. And the 5 foolish ones run out of oil, and they're hey, we don't have any oil. Can we borrow some of yours? And the 5 wise ones are sorry, but no, because we have to have our own oil to keep our light burning. And so the 5 foolish ones had to go and buy oil, and while they were going to get more oil, then the bridegroom came and let them in. And when the 5 foolish ones came back, the door was closed and they couldn't get into the wedding. And so something that relates to that is we can be preparing, and we can move away from Babylon and move towards Zion by putting oil in our lamps. And I guess just ways to put oil in our lamp is just doing anything really that moves us closer to Christ. Kind of the primary answer is saying your prayers, reading your scriptures, going to church, going to the temple, and just doing things to bring us closer to Christ and to give us that fuel and keep having oil to give us light.
As a kid, when I heard that parable, I was oh yeah, I'm definitely one of those who I prepared, right? I read my scriptures, I pray all the time, and I do my best to go to church and everything, and I have a testimony. But recently at girls' camp, they did a modern 10 virgins, and I thought it was really cool, because sometimes we think that, the prepared are the ones that do their scriptures, and they put an effort, right? And the ones that don't, well, they just didn't really try at all. But really, the ones that don't have oil, they did try, but they were tempted, and they ran out. They came up short. And as I was hearing the examples of some of the things that make us unprepared, I thought maybe I need to go a little extra mile, work a little bit harder so I can get that extra oil so that I can be ready, and I don't have to really be worried because the bridegroom represents the second coming, so I don't have to be worried about the second coming, because I know that the righteous, it's going to be a joyous day, and I want it to be a joyous day, so I need to be prepared. So I need to put in the extra effort, really ponder about those scriptures, and pray deeply, and minister, and fast, and follow all the covenants that I'm supposed to, so that way I can be prepared for when the second coming comes.
I think what that kind of makes me think of is, a lot of time the second coming is, it's something we believe in and something we believe to be doctrine, but, what are we actively doing in our lives to prepare for it and to be ready for it when it does happen? And what can we do to be ready for it and to prepare for it?
I think kind of like Macy said, just like going the extra mile and like doing those things that we like know are right, that we've like been taught our whole lives, but like being able to really put the meaning behind it. And I think like you can go through your life reading the scriptures, you can go through your life praying, going to church, all those good things that are like good things, but like if there's no meaning behind it, you're not really like getting it anywhere. And like just so like how Macy was saying, like really like pondering the scriptures, like talking to God in your prayers. And like I think like when we have that meaning, it makes like preparing for the second coming more meaningful, because like there's not meaning if we're just going through the motions. And I think that's something that like I definitely can, like I find myself just going through the motions a lot, and I have to like take a step back and say like, okay, like this is important to me. I want to be ready for the second coming. I want this to be like a joyful day. So like where can I like rededicate my focus and like rededicate my efforts to make this so I'm not just going through the motions?
I always think of the question, if I knew he was coming, let's say next Thursday, would I really be ready? Like, would I change my behavior so that way I am more ready? And so I just need to like just kind of reality check, make sure that I'm doing what I need to if I know he's coming next week.
I think the whole way that the world is going now and the way that our youth is going, it's actually, in a lot of ways, it's in a good way, and we're seeing that more people are accepting Jesus and are, becoming Christian. But I think, unfortunately, a lot of times it's almost just to fit in with almost like a stereotype or a narrative. A lot of people, do the whole aesthetic Christian thing, and, I am all for everyone finding Jesus Christ, and of course everyone are at different points and in different steps in their conversion, and that's perfectly fine. No one is perfect. I'm imperfect. Everyone's imperfect. But I think we do need to be careful that, this Jesus that we're claiming to know and that we're claiming to love and that we're claiming to follow, would he agree with that? If he was watching you, would he say, yes, I'm the one that he's trying to exemplify? And, if someone walked with you for a day, what would they find? Like, what would they see in you? Would it be an example of Jesus Christ? Would it be an example of this person that you claim you love and that you claim you follow? Or who are you really following? And the other side of that coin, who are you leading with you? And I think a lot of times, it's just, oh yeah, I'm Christian and I love Jesus so much. It's like, that's great for you, and I love that you do, and he loves you too, and of course he always will love you, but act the way he would want you to act, and act the way that would mean, so that others can see it instead of hearing it from you, that they already know before you even say it.
I think it talked about, like, I love those thoughts, and just like how not only like saying that, but also like being that, and like having that like be a part of who you are, and like genuinely like deep down in your core, like being like, I do love God and I want to like do what's best for him. I want to see him again. And it reminded me, like in these verses, as it was talking about his second coming, it was saying like the righteous will like say like how much they've seen the loving kindness of God. And that reminded me, as you were saying, like we need to like be like him, that we need to show like loving kindness. And I know there's been times where I definitely could have been kinder and I could have like been more loving. But it's something that like I feel like if we're trying to be like God, he's like the most loving, kind person ever. and I think it's like so important to just like be like loving and kind. So like, what are some experiences that like you guys have had that you've like seen the Lord's loving kindness, and then maybe it's like helped you to like also like show that loving kindness?
One thing that came to my mind, I don't know if I've shared this on this already, but there's this one time in like 8th grade, I'm pretty sure, and I had a class with this certain guy, and he just was not nice to me, and I didn't know why. Like, I barely talked to him and all this, and he just for some reason just did not like me at all. And so that made me really frustrated, and so I probably should have not said certain things to him or probably done certain things, but me and him were just always butting heads and stuff. And then it got to the point where I was telling my parents about it, and they were like, you need to be Christlike, like come on, like you have the gospel in your life, and you have like, you know that you're supposed to love everybody. And I hate when they tell me that. I dislike it so much. Like, it's like, I know, but it's so frustrating. But I realized it, and I was like, you know what, like they are right. Like I need to, maybe like they probably are just having a rough couple months and they don't really know who to take it out on, so they're just taking it out on me kind of thing. Even though it's not acceptable. But I started being nice to him, and I just stopped saying things to him. Like I would completely I'll just smile at him and wave and whatnot. And then slowly but surely he started kind of like opening up a little bit. And then after that, me and him became pretty good friends. Not, you know, bestest friends, but we were like acquaintances and stuff after that. And it was kind of crazy because it went from like us butting heads all the time, and I still have no idea why he did not like me so much. But after that, me and him were good friends, and he like, you know, we were chill in that class. Like we had a class together, and we would talk sometimes, and it was nice. But it kind of just opened the perspective of like, we need to treat people with kindness and love because we never know what people are going through, kind of thing. And when we are Christ-like towards others, it really does show. Like obviously, like that privilege will never like always happen. Like who knows? Like someone will probably be mean to us, and we can't like always expect us showing kindness, and they're always going to show kindness back. But it's always good to show that Christ-like stuff to them, and like being that light in their life, because sometimes you might be the only person that's giving it to them. And so it's always good to show that love to them, and making sure that we are always striving to become like Christ and like showing his love towards others.
I love that. I think in like chapter 134, it was talking a lot about government, and like this kind of reminded me of what you were saying, like, but the saints had like a rough like relationship with the government, like early on. Like they were driven out of a lot of places, and like the government wasn't really protecting them, like that they had been told that they were gonna like be protected by the government. And yet like the saints, it was like, I think there was like a conference or something, and they were talking about how like they didn't hate the government, and like while maybe some like rough things had happened between them, that they were like still upholding that. But they also like really hit on religious freedom, and just how, like we were saying, just like being kind to everyone, and like even if we don't agree with someone, we can like allow them the agency to like believe in the way they want. And I love, it reminded me of the 11th article of faith, and it says, we claim the privilege of worshiping Almighty God according to the dictates of our own conscience, and allow all men the same privilege. Let them worship how, where, or what they may. And I love how, like, kind of going back to what Benji was saying, how it's like talking like, we claim that privilege, like we're Christians, like we worship God, and that's like something we like, that's like a part of us. But we aren't going to force it on others. Like we love them and support them no matter what. And of course we want to like try to bring people to the gospel, and like do our best to like just like bring everyone to Christ. We also are like respectful of others when they don't believe like what we believe. And I think it's important, like as Christians and just like as youth, to like be aware of religious freedom, because like even we don't all have to agree the same way, but I think it's important to all agree that we need to like give each other grace and give each other like agency, because like the state of our world today, I mean, it's not so great, and like people can get like really heated over like little things. But I think as disciples of Christ, we need to like set an example that like others, we can like give them the opportunity to use agency and like in the ways that they want to use it. And while we may not like agree with that, we still need to like be respectful and like show that loving kindness.
That's the great thing about where we live here in America, is that we're not forced to believe anything that we don't truly believe in, and so we can practice whatever religion we want. And so I think it's important, like you said, to respect everybody else, because we're all on our own path, and at least they have some Jesus in their life, right? And we just want to be able to connect. We don't have to totally agree with everything that they believe in or say or do, but we can be able to like connect, because maybe we have one thing in common, because we're all children of God, and so we can all be able to still all be friends because of who, like, the religion that we practice. And it's important that we respect everybody.
I think as a member of the church, it's great to, especially for me, to look up and see our prophet and the leaders of our church to perfectly exemplify that. That's something that I very, very, very rarely see from other churches, is that I feel like a lot of times they get caught up in proving other people wrong. And that's what I love about our leaders, is that instead of telling us where not to go and who not to believe, instead they say, it's almost like it's all just a mirror pointing the light to Christ. It's like, I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't do. Here's where the truth is. Here's where you can find it. It's in Heavenly Father. It's in Jesus Christ. And, they never, ever talk bad about other religions, especially, and about other people. Because, at the end of the day, that is our church. We believe in kindness, and we believe that judgment is for God. And that one day judgment will be his job. That's not ours. Our job is to share the light of Christ. But at the end of the day, it's a choice that everyone has. And no matter what choice they make, we should still be kind to them. Being able to see that from our leaders and to try to exemplify that in myself too. Oftentimes, people always ask, a lot of the questions I get from people who find out that I'm a member of the church are like, oh, well, you hate gay people and all these things. It's like, no, I actually don't. In fact, I have friends who choose to live that way, and I don't see them any less because of that. And it just baffles them. It's like, I would still be friends with you if I don't like the color of your hair. Like, just because we have some difference, just because I wouldn't want my hair to be that color doesn't mean I'm going to hate you for it. At the end of the day, it all just comes down to is we're just trying to be Christ-like, and that's all that matters. Is we want to share that kindness with everyone, and that is the perfect light of Christ. Judgment isn't for us. We're just here to share the light of Christ, and one day that will happen for them down the road, but that will be God's job, not ours. And seeing that from our leaders who represent that has always been huge for me, and seeing them share their kindness and the way they treat others, especially other leaders from other churches, is always huge for me.
I love everything we've talked about today, and it's just been so good to talk about Zion and how we can prepare and how we need to be kind and Christ-like and accepting and just really being a disciple of Christ and having that ingrained to who we are. And so we hope you guys enjoyed listening, and we hope to see you back next week. Bye.
Bye.